This evening, first, the High Court deals a heavy blow to social media commentator Guyanese critic. A $52 million defamation judgment stands as the Mohammeds win again, and an appeal is dismissed, plus political pressure or prosecution. The opposition slams the rearrest of former Finance Minister Winston Jordan, calling it a malicious move by the government. Is this justice or political warfare? Also, coalition questions. As the opposition explores reunification, the WPA raises alarm over who controls the leader of the list. Could internal disputes shake up the election landscape? Meanwhile, dust, danger, and damage. Motorists using the Soesdyke-Linden Highway says construction delays and poor maintenance are wreaking havoc on their vehicles and safety. Minister Juan Edghill responds with promises, but will it be enough? And across the globe, Mexico rolls out a bold ban on junk food in schools to combat childhood obesity. Could similar measures be coming to our region? Stay tuned, these stories and more tonight on Headline News Update. Welcome to this broadcast of Channel 2's Headline News Update for April 1st, 2025. I am Bibi Bacchus. Thank you for joining us. First up, the High Court has upheld a $52 million defamation judgment against social media commentator Guyanese critic Ruth Pendleton has more on the ruling and its implications.
The High Court has ruled against social media commentator Michael Rodriguez, well known as Guyanese critic, upholding a $52 million defamation judgment in favor of businessmen Nazar and Azruddin Mohammed. This comes some 8 months after the court on July 14, 2024, granted a default judgment to Nazar and Azruddin Mohammed against the Guyanese critic and Daybreak News Incorporated. They received a judgment in the sum of approximately $52 million Guyana dollars and several injunctions preventing further defamation. The Guyanese critic and Daybreak News Incorporated appealed against this judgment and lost on Monday, March 31st, 2025. The decision was handed down by Justice Nigel Niles, who also reaffirmed an injunction barring Rodriguez and his media entity Daybreak News Incorporated from making further defamatory statements against the Mohammeds. Rodriguez had planned to overturn both the financial judgment and the injunction, but the court dismissed his applications. To make matters worse, Rodriguez was ordered to pay the sum of $75,000 each to Nazar Mohammed and Azruddin Mohammed for the loss of this appeal. Opining on the Rodriguez application to set aside default judgment granted against him and Daybreak News Incorporated, the judge said the explanation given by the applicants, Rodriguez and Daybreak News Incorporated, are woefully inadequate, and the applicants have failed to satisfy this court that the explanation given was reasonable. Rodriguez made a series of statements about the Mohammeds on his social media platform in February and March 2024. The Mohammeds successfully argued that the statements were false, damaging, and deliberately aimed at tarnishing their reputations. Reporting for the Headline News, I am Ruth Pendleton.
Thanks, Ruth. The People's National Congress Reform, PNCR, and a Partnership for National Unity, APNU, have strongly condemned the recent rearrest of former Finance Minister Winston Jordan, calling it a politically motivated act by the People's Progressive Party civic government. In a statement, the opposition parties described Jordan's arrest on charges previously dismissed by the court as a malicious and vindictive move aimed at silencing critics of the government. They accused the PPP of abusing state institutions such as the Special Organized Crime Unit, SOCU, and the Ghana Revenue Authority for political purposes. The PNCR-APNU pointed out that a similar case against Jordan was thrown out in May of 2023 and cited the court's past criticism of prosecutorial misconduct. They argue that facing certain electoral defeat, the PPP is resorting to intimidation tactics against opposition figures. The opposition urged Guyanese to speak out against what they see as increasing political victimization and vow to defend Jordan's right. They expressed confidence that these dark times will soon end, calling for continued vigilance as the country heads towards elections. On a different note, as construction continues on the Soesdyke-Linden Highway, frustrated motorists are sounding the alarm over the dangerous and deteriorating road conditions, which have resulted in costly vehicle damage and increased safety risks. Drivers report shattered windshields, cracked windows, and poor visibility due to loose stones and dust.
We are fed up of the way they're doing this highway because they ain't thinking about the drivers that work there. You understand? And the other consumers who have to use the highway on a daily basis to go to work in Georgetown and other areas.
The thick dust clouds also make night driving especially hazardous. The lack of road maintenance during construction is fueling public outrage, with calls for authorities to urgently enforce better site management.
The frustration is so deep that some days I just stay home, but and just take a mental break because you got to deal with dust, you got to deal with stones. And regardless if you blink in these other guys in the nighttime is even worse because they drive fast and they do the bright lights plus the dust. Come on, yeah, and they're wetting the road, which is good. But same way they're wetting the road and the holes they're expanding. I don't know, was it really what kind of what's going on with them there?
While there is anticipation and excitement about the new highway, many are pleading for immediate action to ease the travel woes and prevent further damage to vehicles. Today, Minister of Public Works Bishop Juan Edghill did a site visit to the area under construction and acknowledged the challenges but urged patience.
This morning we engaging the contractors as well as the consultants to discuss how we can keep the work moving apace, because the work is moving apace, and at the same time to ensure safety. One of the main reasons why this highway is being done is to ensure the safety of horses. The highway had become inundulated in various sections because of years of use, tonnage, wear and tear.
The Public Works Minister said he intends to meet with the Traffic Department of the Ghana Police Force about readjusting the speed limit along the highway during its construction period. He added that within the next 6 months, commuters will see a smoother road.
With the pace that they are working, within 6 months, significant sections will be already overlaid. And in those sections, you'll be able to move faster. So if I project a 6 months period, not the entire highway will be done, but the sections that they're working on, they could be able to clear that out, overlay it, and then they start working on other sections, because they would have to do it in sections, and you would recognize that they're working from two ends. They're working here, going up, and they're working from Bamia coming down. So they'll be able to connect.
The $10 billion rehabilitation project, funded through an Islamic Development Bank loan, is set to introduce new roundabouts, better lighting, and reconstructed bridges. However, while authorities promise improvements in the coming months, drivers remain deeply concerned about the daily risks. Stick around on return. WPA opposes a party-affiliated leader of the list, calls for independent representative, and Sheriff to Mahaika Road project will not harm businesses, Minister Edghill.
Sneakily with a gift of sight from Modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Common smiles make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services, 316 Middle Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Good girl, forget things. problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road, Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Furnishing your home or office has never been easier. Here at Kissoon's, our inventory of locally made and imported furniture, offered at amazing prices, will leave you wanting more. From vinyl, floor rugs and carpets, bedroom, dining and living room sets, mattresses, pillows, office desk, chairs and filing cabinets, outdoor benches and tables. We have a piece of furniture for every room imaginable in your home or office. Check out our flagship store at Industrial Site Rijnveld or one of our branches in New Amsterdam, Port Morant, Riverton and Camp Street. Kissoon's Furniture, furnishing homes for over 50 years.
Welcome back. The government's infrastructure projects are aimed at improving accessibility and road safety, not disrupting businesses, says Minister of Public Works Bishop Juan Edghill. Speaking at a stakeholder consultation on Saturday, Minister Edghill addressed concerns regarding the US $192.3 million Sheriff Street to Orange-Nassau Mahaica 4-lane road project. He assured business owners that the construction, including a median along the thoroughfare, would not negatively impact commercial activity. The policy direction of the government is to support business and development, not to stifle it, he emphasized, citing similar concerns during the Sheriff Mandela Road expansion, which did not hinder businesses. The 30.8-kilometer project, executed by China Railway First Group Guyana Incorporated, is in its second phase and includes upgrading the Belfield to Orange-Nassau Road, constructing and widening 76 bridges and 42 culverts, and installing 28.32 kilometers of concrete drains. Additionally, strategically placed signalized intersections and median openings will be implemented to ensure traffic flow efficiency. Minister Edghill also announced a future link between the ongoing Aubrey Barker Road project and Enmore, which is being developed as an industrial zone. This development aligns with the government's broader initiative to reduce congestion and improve road safety through flyovers, intersections, and enhanced infrastructure. In other news, the WPA is raising concerns over the appointment of the leader of the list, calling for neutrality in the selection process. Ruth Pendleton has more from the party's virtual press conference.
The Working People's Alliance, WPA, has voiced their concerns over the leader of the list. According to WPA co-leader Dr. David Hines, the leader of the list should not come from any of the contesting parties.
We prefer the model that was used in 2015, when the leader of the list was Dr. Harold Lutchman, who did not officially belong to any of the contesting parties. We are more comfortable with that. And partly it's subjective, partly it's objective. Subjective in that we have been the victims of the leader of the list being a member of the coalition. Mr. Granger was the leader of the list at the 2020 election.
Hines was at the time speaking at the party's weekly press conference. Hines said it was former President Mr. David Granger who took it upon himself to appoint a representative for them and not one they would prefer.
And efforts by us since then to get him to correct that error did not result in the affirmative. And so we, for subjective reasons, are wary of the leader of the list coming from a political party in the coalition. What it means is that the leader of that political party has control over who represents the constituent parties in the coalition. So for objective reasons, we think that coalition building is very difficult, and we understand the temptation of larger parties to assume a certain control of things.
Just yesterday, leaders of the PNCR and AFC met on the possibility of an APNU plus AFC coalition for the upcoming elections. The meeting came hours after the AFC released its proposal for a coalition with the APNU. Reporting for the Headline News, I am Ruth Pendleton.
Thanks, Ruth. On a lighter note, the Juliet Griffith Daycare Center, also known as the Police Daycare Center, held a special Senior Citizens Appreciation Day to honor and express gratitude to the elderly. The event, organized by daycare centers in Rose Hall, Lenora, Providence, and the police headquarters, aimed to teach children the value of kindness and respect for their elders. Under the leadership of Woman Assistant Superintendent Donette Phoenix, the initiative encouraged children to actively participate by dressing up as senior citizens, complete with gray hair, glasses, walking sticks, and walkers, bringing a lively and heartfelt touch to the occasion. This initiative is not just for show. It fosters appreciation for elders and creates lasting memories for the children, Phoenix explained. The event held at the various centers was a first-of-its-kind celebration designed to bridge generational gaps while instilling values of empathy and gratitude in the younger generation. Don't go away after the break. Senegal's economic turmoil forces TV stations off air, raising press freedom concerns, and gangs overrun Haitian prison in Mirebalais. Over 500 inmates escape.
Furnishing your home or office has never been easier. Here at Kissoon's, our inventory of locally made and imported furniture, offered at amazing prices, will leave you wanting more. From vinyl, floor rugs and carpets, bedroom, dining and living room sets, mattresses, pillows, office desk, chairs and filing cabinets, outdoor benches and tables. We have a piece of furniture for every room imaginable in your home or office. Check out our flagship store at Industrial Site Rijnveld or one of our branches in New Amsterdam, Port Morant, Riverton and Camp Street. Kissoon's Furniture, furnishing homes for over 50 years.
Sneakily with a gift of sight from Modern Optical Services. Let our professional team examine and prescribe what's best for your eyes. Common smiles make fashionable faces. See us for a full line of optical services, including brand name and prescription eyewear. Modern Optical Services, 316 Mill Street, Georgetown. Telephone 226-1082.
Good girl forget things.
What's the problem, Granny?
I want money for borrow for those surgery. I was dancing and I fall and fracture my hip.
If you need some quick money, you should check Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop, Lot 238 South Road Border, Georgetown. Get jewelry made to order in just 72 hours. We also accept vehicles. Lender's, best rates, longest payback period.
Boys, I get through. Plus, I could dance again.
Lender's Jewelry and Pawn Shop.
Welcome back. Now we take a look at what's happening in the region and around the world. In Haiti, heavily armed gangs attacked the town of Mirebalais on Monday, seizing a prison and releasing over 530 inmates. The assault, involving gangs tied to the Vive Ensemble coalition, forced hundreds to flee as homes and buildings burned. Authorities closed schools and a local vigilante group attempted to resist the attack. Experts warn gangs are expanding beyond Port-au-Prince, threatening national stability as they aim to overthrow the government and seize power. Meanwhile, in North America, a new law banning junk food from Mexican schools came into effect on Monday, aimed at tackling the country's growing childhood obesity epidemic. Junk food will no longer be sold in schools across the country, and instead, schools will now offer healthier food options and provide free drinking water. Al Jazeera's Julia Galliano reports.
A freshly cooked meal, the new normal for schools across Mexico, a country with one of the worst childhood obesity epidemics in the world. On today's menu at this primary school in a poor district of Mexico City, rice, chicken, and greens, and to drink, plain water. A new law banning junk food from Mexican schools went into effect this week. Schools across the country now have to offer healthy options such as fruits, vegetables, and traditional Mexican dishes. It's certainly an adjustment for a system that has for generations normalized junk food being sold in school shops, including ultra-processed snacks, candies, potato chips, and artificial fruit drinks.
Currently, 4 out of every 10 Mexican children and adolescents are overweight or obese. Recent projections tell us that if we don't act quickly, by 2035, 56% of kids will be overweight or obese.
A total ban might seem radical to some, but according to UNICEF, Mexico's children consume more junk food than anywhere else in Latin America. However, in Mexico City, one of the world's biggest cities, where both parents often have to work long hours to make ends meet, changing eating habits can be easier said than done.
Some mothers manage to cook some of the time, but others give their kids the first thing they can find, an instant soup or a soda. That's a challenge for us, re-educating parents on the importance of finding ways, with whatever resources they have, to buy differently.
The challenge school officials here face is what happens when kids leave school. This is a perfect example. They're leaving school right now to go home, and standing right outside the door are several stands offering anything ranging from cotton candy to pizza to chips and soda. Still, school officials are hopeful that by turning the attention to the importance of a healthier lifestyle, they can get the message through to both the children and their families. Ahead of the new law taking effect, nurses visited schools to weigh the children and teach them self-hygiene practices. It's all part of a bold attempt by the Mexican government to reverse the trend of obesity in the country by starting with the youngest. And it's a program that other nations around the world will watch with interest as they too look for effective strategies to combat the global obesity epidemic. Julia Galliano, Al Jazeera, Mexico City.
Belgium was brought to a standstill by a massive general strike as workers rallied against harsh austerity measures, including pension cuts and extended retirement ages. The protests caused widespread disruption, grounding flights at Brussels airport, halting public transport, and crippling essential services. Al Jazeera's Hashim Alabar reports.
A protester holding an effigy of Belgian Prime Minister Bart de Wever. This crowd blames him and his governing coalition for introducing a series of measures that would cut public spending and could leave many unemployed.
People are going to work longer for less pension, and even while working they will earn less. So it's pension, it's the salaries, and they're also hitting democracy.
Belgium has one of the highest budget deficits in Europe. The new government has to balance the books, but also has to find more than $4 billion to spend on defense and expand the military.
I can understand the defense point of view, but it seems to be like a kind of an excuse. I mean, 4 years ago, the arming industry was not viewed in such a position, and now everybody's jumping on, oh, we have to, to arm ourselves and to be prepared for war. I think if you do more for the people, they will be able to follow that reasoning.
To save money, the government will limit unemployment benefits to 2 years. Lou is an artist who has just graduated and was hoping for a better life. She fears she may never have protection with the new reforms.
I feel anxious, I feel sad, I feel stressed, afraid for my future and for my dream.
This is Brussels Airport, the busiest in Belgium. Flights were cancelled. The once packed departures hall is empty. The ground staff say their fight will continue until their concerns are addressed.
We want money so we can survive. Life is becoming more difficult. We need decent salaries. Here in Belgium, we have to work until the age of 67, but that is very tough for people who have physically demanding jobs.
This is the biggest strike since 2019. The main trade unions say that more strikes will follow. Trade unions want the government to tax the rich and help the poor, but their biggest frustration is that more and more people will have to work until late in their lives to earn a pension, which many here say is unfair. Hashim Akbar, Al Jazeera, Brussels.
Senegal's economic problems have plunged private TV channels into crisis. Several major broadcasters have been taken off air for unpaid fees. The blackout has sparked new concerns about press freedom and the survival of independent journalism in one of West Africa's vibrant media landscapes. Al Jazeera's Nicholas Haig reports.
You can hear it, blaring from outside SARS barbershop. The sound of television. Reaching for the remote is Samba Talaba, wondering who to trust when it comes to getting the news. Senegal's government has cut transmission of several private broadcasters, saying it's because they haven't paid their transmission fees. Talaba isn't buying it.
I think there's so much blah blah. People talk nonsense on talk shows. This is not good for our children and for the nation.
Instead, Talaba turns to what has become a familiar source, more gripping, he says. The government favors social media, more direct for reaching the demographic that got it into power, shunning traditional media.
We're all for freedom of speech as long as it's within the law, but lately there's been a lot of fake news, and honestly, some people are using that freedom to stir up division, especially groups linked to the old regime. They're turning traditional media into a weapon.
2 private broadcasters are being slashed in a bid to trim government spending. This is a setback for the popular channel Walf TV. Last year, the former government shut the channel down and arrested several of its outspoken journalists when it rolled out 24 hours coverage of protests supporting the then opposition leader Ousmane Sonko. Now that he is in power, Walf TV journalists say the government is turning against them after their transmission was temporarily cut.
If you shut off all the taps and stop the press from growing the way they should, let's not kid ourselves. It's going to affect how free they really are to think and speak.
The television screen once held the nation's attention, but sales are down, replaced by the much smaller screen found in our hands. But holding on to public trust is even more difficult. Despite the signal being cut off, this is not the end of television as a major source of information for people here. For the barber, it appears as an act of desperation. He says, in the face of so much to watch, recognizing the truth has become harder than ever. Nicholas Hawk, Al Jazeera, Dakar.
This brings us to the end of the regional and global news coverage. Up next is the 3D weather forecast. And that's it to be 2 Headline News for this Tuesday evening. As we take our leave, we invite you to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. You can tune in tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. for a rebroadcast and at 7 p.m. for more news. Until then, please take care of yourself and each other.